Thank you so much, Pooja, for sharing all these things. So thank you. And I'm also thankful to all the audiences for their active participation. Keep asking your questions, keep asking the right questions to our speakers. Thank you, and we move ahead. So friends, OWSD. OWSD is the International Organization for Women Scientists from the Developing World. And the objective of the OWSD is strengthening the role in women's role in the development process and promoting their representation in scientific and technological leadership. So we are very, very lucky today to have Professor Jennifer Thomson, who is an Emeritus Professor in the Department of Molecular and Cell Biology at the University of
Cape Town.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the slide. She is an Emeritus Professor in the Department of Molecular and Cell Biology at the University of Cape Town, South Africa. She has done her postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard University. She's also Associate Professor in Genetics at the University of the Witwatersrand, visiting scientist at MIT, and she's the winner of L'Oreal UNESCO Prize for Women in Science for Africa in 2004, Vice Chair of ISAA, that is International Service for Acquisition of Agribiotic Applications, President of Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, and she's also recipient of the International Prize for the Protection of Human Rights by the Accademia dei Lincei of Italy. So friends, we are very, very lucky to have Professor Thomson, and I'm really, really thank you for accepting our invitation and being here today. And Professor Thomson will talk today on how the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World can help women scientists unleash their latent talents. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and my talk follows very well after the last one because, and I'm just going to try and see how I can get my slides up, and there we go. Can everybody see that? Okay.
Yes, we see.
So the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World has a number of opportunities. So I'm going to go through them all. First of all, they're the fellowships for PhDs and for early careers. And then there are the specific awards. And then most importantly are the networking opportunities via our national chapters. And I'm going to talk about some of the work that the Indian national chapter is doing. But there at the bottom in red is what everything is all about. It's to change the perceptions of the world out there to what women can do in science. So our PhD fellowships are funded by Sweden since 1998. Unfortunately for India and South Africa and Nigeria and a couple of other countries, we are not scientifically lagging. So we cannot take up PhD fellowships, but we can be hosts to women PhD fellows from the scientifically lagging countries. When I became when I became president, I opened the membership to social scientists, but our PhD fellowships are only for natural scientists. And so far, 283 have graduated and 158 are current. That's just to show which ones are. And these are what we cover. And so for those of you from non-Indian countries in the developing world, these are something that you can see on our website. And our website is OWSD.net. Very, very easy. So please, those of you who want to, go onto that website and see what the fellowships are. Then, very importantly, are the early career fellowships, because very often when our young women go into the laboratories and take up their first or second careers, they go into a vacuum. And sometimes they even go into an environment that's quite hostile. because many of them have had opportunities to do PhDs in other countries, and maybe they go back and they find even the male colleagues are envious of what they've had, and they land up doing an awful lot of teaching. I found that with some of my PhDs from other countries who go back and are swamped by the teaching load. And so this award enables them to get money from, it's funded by the IDRC in Canada, and helps them also if they want to collaborate with industry. They get an equipment grant, they get research activities grants, and then we have workshops to help them strengthen their leaderships and, if necessary, how to collaborate with industry. And this is, I want to come back to that. That skipped its place. This is the some of the early career fellows last year meeting in, our home is in Trieste, which sounds a little strange for a developing world organization to be based in Italy, but the Italian government has been extremely helpful to us. They're very, very supportive of women in science, and it is the home of the World Academy of Science, and we fall under the World Academy of Science, which is based in this beautiful place of Trieste. So the early career women are there having a workshop on how to run a lab, how to finance the lab, how to run administration. So we give very, very practical experience to these women. Then the awards, they are up at the top there. It's by OWSD and Elsevier Foundation. You know, Elsevier is a major academic publishing organization, and their foundation gives these awards to women who are exceptionally outstanding in one of the given fields that they choose. And here is one of our winners a couple of years ago, and she got a prize when she went back to Uganda. That's the president of Uganda giving her a prize for getting the prize. So it's a very prestigious affair. And just to go back, if I can, here is one of the award winners from Bolivia. And her award gave her recognition at home. When she went back home, the president of Bolivia said he wanted to have a meeting with her for a few minutes. He gave her over an hour, and as a result of her winning this prize, he promised an annual special day to celebrate Bolivian women in science. So these awards have a knock-on effect and can really make a woman's career really escalate. We give these awards annually at the American Association for the Advancement of Science meetings. Whether these will be able to happen next year, who knows? We don't know. These normally happen in February. Last year in February, the award was in Seattle. I was there to help the women get there because they have to give presentations, and I was coaching them in their presentations. And I left Seattle about 4 days before it and so it was lucky, but I don't know if the outbreak of our coronavirus is going to allow this to happen. Now, for the networking and the national chapters, these are the backbone of our organization. But unfortunately, because we are funded for projects, we don't actually have funding for the national chapters. So we encourage countries who want the women who are members in a country to link up with another organization who can help them. So, for instance, just to go back to this, the national chapters, for instance, the South African national chapter is linked to the Academy of Science, and the Kenyan Academy national chapter is linked with the International Center for Insect Physiology and Ecology. So if you link with another organization, it does help to get more activity. Here is the Indian National Chapter, which, as you can see, there was founded in 2006. These are some of the activities. Networking is a high priority in all of our chapters. Participation in national and international conferences, workshops, and lectures where women scientists can showcase their work. And currently, there are 282 active members of the Indian National Chapter. And earlier on this year, very recently on the 19th of June, the National Chapter in India, together with CSIR and NEERI, which I forget what it stands for, but I think it's going to come up just now, had a webinar on dealing with the new normal, how science has been and will remain challenged and changed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Last in 2018, our national chapter, our executive board was hosted by the national chapter. We met in New Delhi, and there we are in New Delhi meeting for our annual meeting. And then Atia Kapli is the vice president. You see, what we have is a president of OWSD, and then we have our 4 regions, each has a vice president and a steering committee member. So, oh, there it is. I knew that NEERI would be spelt out because Atia is the senior principal scientist in the Environmental Genomics Division of NEERI, which is the National Environmental Engineering Research Institute in Nagpur. So she has been talking about how India has been dealing with the pandemic. So early on, we heard that the Indian government went into lockdown to contain the spread. Of course, the downside of that is the economic crunch, but the Indian government set up shelter homes. And NEERI, some of the staff worked from home, some of them lived on campus, and they could go on working in their office. Atia's job, for instance, is to provide solutions for environmental problems. And during the lockdown, she couldn't visit the sites for remediation, but after lockdown, she and her team will be monitoring and suggesting treatments for wastewater that may be carrying the virus. So these are environmental problems that are facing India and many other countries, of course. So her own institute is gearing up for as a detection center that was earlier on. Now that is up and running, developing more cost-effective diagnostics and detection kits for COVID-19. Submitted some of these for permission to use and scale up, researching better filters to be used in masks with nanomaterials, and also the mass production of sanitizers and masks for distribution to the police and healthcare personnel at the forefront of the response. If you go onto our OWSD website, you will see that we have a special section dealing with how our members, our executive board members and our members are dealing with the pandemic. And I think you will find some of these stories quite inspiring. They certainly are from India. And these are some of the other things that they are doing. So, and here are NEERI staffs making masks and distributing to NGOs while, as you notice, they are observing the rules of distancing. So here's another thing from our website, also from an Indian member, talking about what she and her lab is doing in the Ministry of Science and Technology in India. A little bit more about that. So even though there's lockdown, there's a lot of activity going on in our national chapters, and please do go onto our website and you can find out what's happening. And so in a nutshell, thank you very much. You see all the men's faces. Our aim is to make more of these men's faces, women's faces. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Jennifer, for your wonderful talk and brief idea on what OWSD is doing. I take some of the questions from the audience is, one of the question from the audience is are there any age limits to join some of the fellowships by OWSD?
No. In fact, we have just yesterday done a first round screening of the new intake for PhD fellows, and we had people in their 50s. And we believe that there shouldn't be a cutoff. But on the other hand, somebody going into a PhD at the age of 50 doesn't have that much long to make an influence. So we take that into account. But no, in fact, when I was an active member of the University of Cape Town, one of the things I dealt with was fellowships, and our national research grant giving agency in South Africa had these young awards, and there was a cutoff of 35 years. And I went to them and I said, "You're out of your mind. For men, it's fine, but women peak later. So we have to have them available to apply much later. In fact, at least up until 45, women are young in science. There are no cutoffs."
So Dr. Nancy Onjemo Otiono is thanking for your great presentation. Temitope Fedipe is also appreciating, and they're really happy. And there is one question from Dr. Aparna Gunjal, who is asking, can we submit articles on women empowerment to OWSD?
Absolutely. We are more and more having chat rooms. We also have recently opened up blogs. So there's massive opportunities for people women to participate. But there is a preference to members of OWSD. So why don't you, if you want to get involved, become a member? And there's certainly no age limit on the membership. So go onto our OWSD website, owsd.net, and see how you can become a member. You first have to become a member of OWSD, and then you can become a member of a national chapter. So you first join the OWSD, because not all countries have national chapters. You have to have a certain number of members, 20 members in a country, in order to start a national chapter. And some of our smaller countries have got fewer than 20 members, so they just become member of OWSD International. But it's much better to join a national chapter once you've joined OWSD, because then you have the opportunities of the networking.
Very rightly said, Professor. There is a question from Nancy Onjemo Otiono. She's asking, what about the 2020 Early Career Fellowship Awards? Are they announced?
To my knowledge, they haven't yet. I know we've had the meetings to choose them, but that was only about 2 weeks ago. So to my knowledge, they haven't yet come out.
Temi Tope Fadipe is asking, are Nigerians qualified to apply for the postdoc and PhD fellowships by OWSD?
Damn it. About 2 years ago, the Nigerians were dropped off the list of scientifically lagging countries. So unfortunately not, but we are so aware of the problem that this is raising that we are consciously fundraising to look specifically at countries like Nigeria and even South Africa, although South Africa's got a lot of support for their own country women. But Nigeria is a problem, and we really are very aware of it.
Wow, thank you so much, Professor Jennifer. It's really nice, and I can say that from my own experience, I have benefited immensely with OWSD's various fellowships, opportunities. Even OWSD supports women scientists to attend international conferences. So I think everything is mentioned on the website, and since we are running out of time, the audiences can go to the website of OWSD, and there are like facility to address your questions, and I'm sure you will get the answers for all your questions. So I thank you once again, Professor Thomson, for being here today with us for an insightful, enchanting and exciting journey through your talk, and we all look forward to hear you again on yet another such exciting platform. So thank you so much for sharing your time and experiences with us.